your testimony, particularly this line, "Shall I revert to the days when I would casually pass up an opportunity to eat today so that my children have a better chance of eating tomorrow?" If you don't mind, could you speak about times in your life that you may have had to do that?
Yes, thank you. And I do hope that other members of the committee do have the time and the opportunity to read through my full written testimony. It was a challenge for me. It forces me to relive these very traumatic experiences. And honestly, I think some of it I've kind of blocked out to the best of my ability. And that's, again, the reality of what so many of us deal with. You know, there have been those times when I've prepared the best of what I could for a meal, and I'm a great cook, and I've had to ration out food. And as I rationed it out, I'm looking at the plate of one child and the other, and sort of based on age and where they are and what I feel that they need for nourishment, was sort of, again, rationing out this food. And then it gets to me, and of course, as a parent, you put yourself last. And that's not, you know, singular to me. It's what we do as parents, as providers. And so there have been on numerous occasions, you know, SNAP has come into my life in times of need, and then I've been able to walk away. I've been sometimes what's called a churner. I've been on and off the program, and it's helped, it's done exactly what it's been intended to do. But as I said, as parents, there is shame associated with it when we're walking into these spaces where basically the police are trying to keep us from accessing these programs that are intended to assist us. And we're looked at as a fraud before somebody in need. And I can't speak enough to what that does to a person's, you know, of course we can imagine and envision what physically that does to a person, but mentally what it does to a parent who's, again, just trying to provide the best for their children.
Thank you for sharing such a personal story. Mr. Adolphson, if Ms. Sullivan came to you and she says she's at 140% of federal poverty line and she told you her story, would you believe that she should get food stamps? Yes or no?
I would follow the eligibility standards.
So if she came to you, she said, look, I'm having to skip meals and my kids are, otherwise my kids would go hungry and I need this, and you believed it to be true, but it's 140% over the federal poverty line, you would say, no, she doesn't qualify?
You know, personally, I would help if I could.
Well, you were administrating Maine. I'm just saying, were these the type of cases someone came to you, if they were 140%, would you say yes, or would you say no?
Well, with BBCE, she would be eligible, so I would say yes.
I would not.
But under the federal law, food stamp eligibility, she would be ineligible.
I mean, you would, so what the Trump administration is doing is trying to make her ineligible, and you would support that. You would think that someone like Ms. Sullivan shouldn't get food stamps. I just want to be clear because, you know, I saw your testimony about private planes and all that. Let's just be honest here. I mean, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about whether someone like Ms. Sullivan, who's at 140% of poverty line, should get food stamps or not. Now, if you want to say that no, she shouldn't, at least that's an honest answer. And that's, you know, that we could just have a difference of values. But let's be very clear about that position.
Sir, I'm being honest, and the broad-based categorical eligibility loophole that's being closed by this rule, as I mentioned in my testimony, is much more about assets than income. And you heard from several testimonies that income is the smaller piece of this particular rule. And I'm being completely honest about what this rule does. As a state administrator,
let me just add one question because my time's
make an
running
individual determination.
If I could just finish. How much money would this rule save the federal government?
It's several $1 billion.
How much exactly?
It depends on the final
What's
rule,
your
which
estimate?
has not come out yet.
So, I mean, so you're basically saying for $2 to $3 billion, you don't even know how much it would save, which is less than 1% of our defense budget, you would deprive millions of Ms. Sullivans of food. I mean, that, just so we have our priorities. I mean, that's basically your policy argument to this committee.
This is about preserving the resources for the truly needy who are eligible by federal law.
Which is less than 1% of our defense budget. To deprive, you know, probably 1 million people like Ms. Sullivan of food.
I'm not prepared to discuss the defense budget at this food stamp hearing.